What up, Marsh Pod? We are here on a Monday, April 21st. We've got 2 weeks of college basketball left. We've got postseason hoops in the SWBA underway. We are reaching the apex of the basketball schedule right here on us. And over the weekend, dropped the latest projected Hoopsteria rankings. All 64 combatants, 1 through 16 seeds. So wanted to take a look at that and do a little ranking of the most dangerous lower seeds. I think there is a real chance this season, considering who the seeds are, that we're going to have maybe a very rambunctious, a very entertaining Hoopsteria. This would be a welcome reprieve, I suppose, or welcome change after last year's was just so chalky that it was like a Tums ad. But to get some real upsets, I think we've got a shot at it this season. So I looked at all of them, obviously, and then wanted to take another look at them. So got 6 teams that I'm very interested in, teams that I think could be very dangerous. But first, a couple honorable mentions. These are guys that I think are dangerous, but I'm not quite convinced they're dangerous, so they don't get to be in this. I wanted it to be top 5, but it ended up at top 6. I mean, that's pretty much it. Wanted 5, got 6, because I could not take one of these squads off. So first, the honorable. Actually, I lied. We did have 5. Woohoo, math. All right, honorable mentions. Wisconsin. Should we trust the non-conference schedule or the conference schedule? Because they've been really good in Big Ten play, but they were really bad in non-conference play. They're an honorable mention on this list. Penn State and Ohio State, looping them together, those are both projected 16 seeds. This can extend to Wisconsin. Is the Big Ten really deep? I have been toying around with this. I have been wondering about this. I don't know the answer. Is the Big Ten really deep or is it really mediocre, right? If it's really deep, then Penn State and Ohio State could slip in at 16 seeds and they could be good. But if it's just a really mediocre conference and they're on the bottom of it, not an impressive, dangerous team. FSU, projected I have them as a 15 seed. They beat Duke. I mean, they've proven they can go up against the big dogs and win in the ACC. That's dangerous, but they lack star power to make me really concerned with them. And the last one is Missouri. They've got Dylan Bannon, they got John Fett Towns, but they don't have any big wins. Some of these other guys, they've beaten good basketball teams. Missouri has not. They've been really bad in the SEC, so I'm not really concerned, but maybe they're projected as a 16. So the 5 lower seeded teams, and I stopped at 11 because I thought once you get to like 10 and definitely 9, those are like legitimately good basketball teams. Those are teams that are well above 500 or at or above 500 right now. So I stopped at 11, and that's where we'll start. Is one of my 5 is Miami, projected as an 11 seed. Seemed to have things figured out. I mean, early on they were playing well, and they had their long cold stretch, but then they kind of had this really nice hot stretch during ACC play when the schedule actually got tougher. The defending champions, they've got Jermaine McElmore, they've got Dominic Bianco. Those two can ignite in a heartbeat. This is still a lot of the team from last year that was dominant. The challenge has been their consistency. But if I'm looking at them as an 11 seed, I'm rolling in as a 6 seed, I don't love the idea that I have to go after and try to slow this team down. They have been competitive. They have won against big teams. They have proven it late. And I think that's kind of the through line on a lot of these teams. You would think I would have put Wisconsin in this list, but they don't have a Jermaine McElmore. They don't have a Dominic Bianco. But these teams that are in this group, and Miami's chief among them, have had long stretches of consistency. And while I'm not expecting any of these teams to win a national championship, you do need to be good for a weekend. And I do think that Miami sits here and profiles as a group with 2 guys that are probably going to be first-round picks, maybe even in McElmore's case, a lottery pick. That's a dangerous team to run into as an 11 seed. Any other year, they're probably not making Hoopsteria, but they are this season. And that, to me, I look at it and I say that's not a good sign. They can be dangerous because they've got guys that can be disruptive. The next group, and these aren't in any particular order, but the next group I've got is Colorado, and they're projected as a 12 seed. Like Wisconsin, do we believe more in the non-conference schedule or the conference schedule? Because they've been really good in the conference schedule. They have started to give confidence, and that depth of the most recent wins is what balloons them. But more than anything, it's Brian Vaughn. Brian Vaughn has been fantastic. And when you look at the teams that are not in this group and the teams that are, it comes down to 2 things for me. It's the long stretches of consistency, which we have not seen from those other teams. We have seen that from Colorado most recently. And then it's star power, right? And that's why Colorado sits there, because Brian Vaughn has been an absolute monster. There's not many teams in college basketball that have an answer for Brian Vaughn. Inside, he's disruptive, gets to the glass, powers a really good Colorado offense when it's going through him. That physicality is going to be ultimately, I think, what decides this Colorado squad. Can they go far? It's going to be because Brian Vaughn is doing his thing. If they don't, it's because the rest of this roster is very flawed. And it's why if you put another first-round pick on this team, I think Colorado's winning the Pac-12. They're running away with the Pac-12 just because of how good Brian Vaughn is. All right, next one up is UConn, currently projected as a number 13 team. They were, reminder, really good early on. They have wins against Georgia Tech, who's top 15, Texas, who's top 6, Butler, who's top 15, Kansas State, who's top 25. Those are good basketball teams. But they have since gone ice cold down the stretch, and a lot of those losses were within 10 points. They were winnable games with the right couple bounces. So this team has struggled to finish games, not identically, but in a similar vein to the challenges that we saw with Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was beating everybody. They couldn't win the big games. UConn is kind of the reverse of that. They're winning the big games, but they can't beat everybody else. They don't have the star power that every other team in this top 5 dangerous teams that I have, but they do have the depth, the consistency, and the been there, right? Fareed Redmond has been there. This group knows how to win big games. They've got a great head coach in Dan Hurley. They've been to 2 straight national championship games. Is UConn going to escape the first weekend? I don't think so, but I'm not going to want to see them as a 13 seed, so walking in as a 4 seed, I'm not going to want to see UConn in the opening weekend for sure. My number 2, if you will, but second to last one is Tennessee, currently projected as a number 14 team. They've beat Kansas. They beat Minnesota, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. That's not quite the gauntlet that UConn has, but it's a really good group. Their defense has been quite good. They hit a ton of threes, and they have, most importantly, Trey Turner, who's a top 5 pick. Now, we've seen this story before. A guy that could go in the top 5. Rest of the roster isn't that great. We've seen that with Cade Cunningham when he was at Oklahoma State. We've seen that with Ben Simmons when he was at LSU. We're seeing that with Japheth Towns in Missouri, and we're seeing that with Trey Turner in Tennessee. The difference is Trey Turner had a great season last year. Henrik Vekic was actually good a season ago, and he hasn't been good this season. Tennessee, though, can get hot because Trey Turner is arguably the best basketball player in college basketball. But the problem is he's playing on a really bad team. He's got no supporting cast, and he's been asked to do everything on his own, very similar to his prep days. But if Tennessee can get rolling and Trey Turner cannot get stopped, I would expect to see teams just box and one the heck out of him. Just put him, double team, triple team, make somebody else beat us. But if Trey Turner gets rolling, this team, it's Davidson-like. It's Davidson-like with what they can do, especially from shooting threes. Then my last one, projected as a 13 seed, is Michigan. Richard Pizarski and Lorenzo Phenom. I see this team as like a poor version of Newly Cox and Travion Novick with their two-headed forward duo. It's a top 30 offense. It's a team that shoots in the top 10 in field goal percentage, but they can't hit threes. Now, I've always said, if you're watching college basketball and you're looking for upsets in hoops area, you need a couple things. You need athleticism, because typically the better seeds have more athletes. You need shot makers, and you need the ability to shoot the three-pointer. Now, Michigan doesn't have 2 of those 3 things, but what they do have is shot makers. And that's going to be the problem. If you're going in there as a 13 seed, you're looking at a 4 seed. So, who are my 4 seeds right now? I've got Iowa, Georgetown, Georgia Tech, and UNC. Now I've got to find 2 guys to match up with Richard Pizarski and Lorenzo Phenom. That's not necessarily a great proposition. And if we go back to the original argument with Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State, what if the Big Ten is really deep, right? I can't figure it out. I can't figure out if this is a really good conference or a really bad conference that's just super mediocre across the board. But what if it's really good and Michigan has been hanging around and they've been beating teams? Then Michigan starts to be a player in hoops area. It starts to look like, hey, well, if they got a softer schedule, right? If they got to play Washington, if they got to play Georgia, if they got to play Xavier or Seton Hall, Michigan might look a hell of a lot different than they do right now. But they haven't, because Illinois, Minnesota, Purdue, Indiana have all been at various points ranked in the top 25, Iowa, and yet they haven't been able to run away with it. So if the Big Ten's really good, Michigan could be a sleeper team. So my 5 most dangerous lower seeds right now, we don't have final standings, but I can't imagine these guys are making big leaps. Michigan, Tennessee, UConn, Colorado, and Miami. In no particular order, but I'll tell you what, I would not want to see them in the opening round if I'm a top 4, 5, or 6 seed, knowing that I've got to go through them.